All right. Says we're live. Now it gives me a viewer counter. I can see we have 0 viewers. I didn't have that before. Are they coming on?
I'm not seeing it.
It's not live?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, wait.
Wait, a private?
Yeah. Now it should be on.
There it is.
All right. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my smartphone. Okay. So we got 2 viewers on, right?
Shows me 3.
All right. Well, that's
one
that's
is me and one's you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Ken Walrath. You got the chat up?
I'm trying to get. I can't see the chat, so I'm going to try and pull it up on my smartphone. When all else fails, get old reliable out. I hope we didn't mess this up. Me.
Right?
Hope I didn't mess it up.
It happened. You still here, Ken?
Okay. I see Ken Walrath. Hey, buddy. What do you think the problem is, Michael? Can you hear me, Michael?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I see Ken Walrath talking. Hey, we're doing pretty good, buddy. We're having technical difficulties. I don't have any chat on my screen whatsoever. Hey, Michael, is there a way that you can turn your chat off and on? Then you could tell me how to do that. Maybe I just got to turn it on.
I don't see a way to.
Yeah, I don't have any chat. Oh,
K's on.
now I got the chat dialog box up, but I don't see anyone talking. So we have Kay back on. Ken and Kay, we got a show. All right. Well, what do you say we kick it off, Michael, and we'll just let everyone join as we go. So
That works.
okay. So for for this episode, there's a few things we have. The one thing we want to do, we want to start our episodes out with a little bit of history from the past. I have an awesome book here, and I'm going to be reading out of this book, and then we're going to get into the M&P Shield 9mm. Michael has one. I have one. And then we're going to get into talking about primers, okay? So, all right, I'm gonna kick this off. What I have, this is a book. This is a nursery history of the United States. I got this at a secondhand store a few years back, and it's an incredible book. But this book, copyrighted in 1916, the author is Lucy Bombardi Barber, okay? So I'm going to just start out, I'm just going to take a paragraph at a time, a paragraph per episode, and it just gives the viewers an idea of history over time. And the reason I want to do this, I want the viewers to understand something. Gun people have to understand why we have our guns, the evolution of time, what really happened in history. So here it goes. This is entitled Our Country. A little more than 400 years ago, no white man had ever heard of this great land we call our country, and yet it is the oldest land in all the world. For thousands of years before white man came to it, it had stretched broad between its two blue oceans. Wild beasts and savages roamed over it at will. When the first white men came, there were many different kinds of country in the big land, just as there are now. Along the eastern ocean, nearest Europe, were thick forests dotted with lakes and rivers. To the west of these, beyond pine-covered mountains, lay the great valley of Mississippi and Missouri rivers, green and meadow grass. Beyond these valleys were high plains covered with herds of buffalo and wild horses, deer and moose and elk. From these plains rose the snow-capped Rocky Mountains, where mountain goats and grizzlies made their home. To the west of the Rocky Mountains sloped down into dry desert where no rain came and very little grew. Beyond these deserts rose more mountains, the Sierras we call them, and these sloped down into the beautiful coast country lying along the edge of the western ocean no white man had yet looked upon or named. On the next episode, we'll get into Indians of the eastern coast and Great Lakes, and it's going to talk about the different Indian tribes, so follow along. So, okay, I find it very fascinating, a very fascinating book. So, all right, Michael, what's next?
Oh, we're going to let Kay teach us about our shields.
Does she have a shield?
Yeah. And the last one, she said, teach her about her shield. So.
Okay. So Ken Walrath, his wife has the shield in the 40 cal. Hey, we got Desaad on. All right. So you got yours ready to go?
Yeah, why don't you do the unboxing?
Oh, the unboxing, the special unboxing. So I want to tell the viewers what we have going on for the show. Idaho Guns has been gracious enough to give me the opportunity to have a different gun every episode. Our first episode, I matched what Michael has, so we can talk about the same gun. I wanted to kick it off with the same gun. So I have a new in the box M&P Smith & Wesson shield in 9mm, but Idaho Guns let me shoot this. He said, 2 mags, go have fun. Okay, so I'm going to do the unboxing here. I'm really glad that Michael talked me into these cordless ear headphones. All right. Here we are. So now, first off, of course, the instructions. I want to tell everybody this. This is a new gun. It can be purchased at Idaho Guns and Outdoors. Here's the price tag. All right. And I signed another price tag. So if anyone is interested in this pistol, if they get a hold of Idaho Guns, and tell them you're interested in the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield that Highboy had on his channel, and tell them I signed the tag and it's in the box, okay? So there we go. Now, we don't want to do this least, do we? Here we go. That is our pistol. I have shot two mags through it. And shortly here, we're going to get into talking about my opinion of it, and we're going to talk about specifics of this pistol. So there's the pistol. Now it comes with two mags, an 8-round and a 7-round, okay? We're going to talk about in a minute why one is a 7 and why one is an 8, okay? We'll talk about that, okay? And then in here we got, we have a fence lock. This is for locking your fence, okay? And then just a couple other pieces of paper and your instructions. All right, Mike.
I thought that lock was for refrigerators.
Well, actually, what it's for is for locking your high lift jack to your 4-wheel drive in the back of the bed around the roll bar, so no one can steal it. Okay, so Michael, show them yours.
Mine's had a few hundred rounds put through it. I'll try to show it's empty.
Me and Michael already verified that our pistols were clear.
Mine is empty.
So, Michael, do you want to tell them your story of how you came about with the with liking the Smith & Wesson pistols?
Well, when I was in the law enforcement academy, it's been 11 years ago, I went and bought one of the Smith & Wesson Sigmas. And that thing was the worst gun I've ever shot in my life. And a buddy had told me to get the M&P. And when I got it, I just fell in love with it. It's got one of the best trigger pulls.
Well,
Highboy trying to take his down. I can't.
Yeah. Okay. For me, I wasn't a fan of the Smith & Wesson pistols. And it was because I shot a pistol a few years, it's been more than a few years back, that I didn't like. It was the Sigma. I couldn't remember which polymer pistol it was I'd shot, but when you and me were talking last night, I remembered it. That's what it was. It was the Sigma. And can I ask you this? The Sigma, isn't it like a double action semi-auto pistol? I'm just, my memory, is that right?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's fine. So
it's been, like I said, 11 or 12 years.
I kind of, yeah, that's fine. I kind of thought that I didn't really care for the polymer pistols. You know, being kind of a 1911 guy, I tried the Smith & Wesson. I didn't like it, but then I saw the Springfield XD. I held it. I really liked the crisp trigger on it, and I purchased it. Since then, I've never had an interest in the Smith & Wesson pistols. But when you and me decided to kick this off with the M&P, I thought, okay, I'm going to be open-minded, even though I don't think a lot of it. And Idaho Guns, I picked this up yesterday. He said, I want you to shoot it. I said, it's new. He said, that's okay. Go shoot it. Enjoy it. I want you to see what it shoots like. I think he's really just trying to sell me a pistol, but that's a funny. But no, he's a good guy. He said, no, go enjoy it. It's okay. And so I went and shot it, and I got to tell you, I think this is a must-have pistol. I think it's a very worthy pistol. I think it's a pretty a unique design. There's a lot of things I like about it. What are some of the things that you like about your pistol, Michael?
I think it's good size for carry. The main thing I fell in love with these is the trigger. But I got the Sigma pulled up. It is double action only.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember it being a double action pistol, and I didn't like that about it. I think that's why it has the action that it does. It's a very long pull, every pull, and what I didn't like about it is, like on a double action revolver, you can actually stage that trigger a little bit. You can't do that with that Sigma, from what I remember. And so with this pistol, I was really impressed by it. Really very impressed. And now I can't get this thing together. Oh, I know why I can't get it together.
That sear piece.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why. It's the sear. No, it's down. It's down the way it should be. I only had it apart one time. Oh, there I go. Okay. All right. What I don't like about it, I wouldn't purchase this with the safety. I'm not saying that's, if you have one with the safety, that's a bad thing. But if I had it with the safety, I would never use the safety. First off, just like the 1911, it's located right here in this position. But the problem is, unlike the 1911, you're all the way up here to get it. It's not natural, and I understand why. They only have so much real estate to work with this just under the slide, so I get that. Okay, but here's the deal. For me, I wouldn't need a safety on this pistol. Just like the Glock, the Glock has the trigger safety, but the other safety is, us. With the proper holster, I would own this without the safety, and I would never worry about this pistol going off in any way. Go ahead, Michael.
I just don't use my safety at all. I think the other day was the first time I actually turned it on when you were talking about it on your other one.
Now, I noticed that the trigger it's a two-piece trigger, but that in itself is a safety design. We were talking the other night, this would be an advantage to someone that's going to holster this, that has a lanyard coming off their coat, and that lanyard gets stuck in the trigger. Am I right?
Yeah. I was actually playing around with it a little while ago. And you take a pen. Yeah.
I was going to show them, but you had I'll see if I can get a close up on this as well.
Yeah, you could probably get it better.
So as you see, when you're in the operation position, you can pull that. But up higher, you can't pull it, and it's because there is a mechanical stop coming off the bottom of that trigger. That mechanical stop is hitting on the inside frame inside of your trigger guard, okay? So anything up higher isn't going to pull that trigger. I like that. I think that's a pretty neat design. The other thing I like about this, I just shot my my Ruger LC9 last night, and that pistol, it shot a little tighter groups than this for me. But what my LC9 lacks is I wished it had this. What do you want to call? What do I want to? I'm lost for words, Michael. What is this?
The grip. I mean, I know the full size M&Ps have on the grip here, the back plate of the grip. You can actually interchange them with different sizes.
Yeah. Oh, texture. Texture's the word. I like this texture. It's got a almost a sandpaper feel to it, right? My Ruger doesn't have anything, and so it does make it a challenge, more of a challenge to hold on to the Ruger. I didn't find it at all challenging to hold on to this. You know, I would say for a man, I have average size hands, you know, and for me, it fit. The advantage that the Ruger has over this is a little more compactability in the way of thinness. But now let's talk about the mags. At first glance, we see two mags. One is a 7-round, the other is an 8-round. The Ruger 1911 comes with two different magazine capacities. One is a 7. The reason they put a 7 in that with that Ruger is because that's how the 1911s were originally manufactured. Back in the day when 1911s came out, all 1911s came with a 7 capacity mag. Now we have magazines with larger capacities. So with my Ruger, I had one with a larger capacity and one with a standard 7. But here we have a 7 and an 8. Why do you think, Michael, we have a 7 and an 8? What's your opinion?
I believe the 8 is because it's got the extender.
Yeah. If you
without it, I can't even hardly grip it.
Yeah. With these two mags, for an 8, you need a little more room for that spring, for your spring to work. So that's the length difference there. I mean, pretty logical. I mean, you know, most anyone's going to catch on to that. So it comes with a 7 and an 8. The 7, you know, it's still not bad. I can still grip it. How's yours feel with the 7?
With the 7 on mine, I don't have the 7 upstairs here, but
yeah,
it's like my pinky sits underneath.
Yeah, I can almost get my pinky onto this one, but not really. Not really. The pinky just kind of misses it there.
My biggest downfall with this gun is the grooving here.
Okay. All right. We talked about that last night. What was the downfall with that?
I had my mom shoot it, and when she shot it, her thumb was up too high, and when the slide came back forward, it took a chunk out of her thumb.
Yeah, it would. Instant thumb mill work, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. To tear it down, you have the sear disengagement on the inside. Something as simple as a pin to knock it down. Then once you reassemble it to put the sear engagement back in position, you put the mag in. The mag returns that to the sear engagement position. I do like this because without the mag, you can still fire it. My LC9, no mag, no fire. Okay, not a real big deal. Not a real big deal because I always keep the mag in it. But it is nice that you can still pop one off with the mag out. So I would say nice job done there. So do you have what do you have for the sights? Just the white dots?
Yeah. Yep. One thing based on what you were just saying though about firing without the mag.
Yeah.
If you're wrestling around with somebody who's trying to take your gun and your mag gets ejected, you still got that one in the chamber.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. So this is the sights. See if I can line that up for the viewers. There we go. I was when I was at the indoor range. By the way, if you go to a 76 Highboy Reloading YouTube channel, there's a very short video there. I will have it linked in the description box of this video once it's live up on the YouTube. But yeah, upon firing this, I didn't even think about the sights after. You know, I mean, when I got to the range before I shot it, I was checking out the sights thinking, you know, all right, how are these going to be? Once I started shooting it, my autopilot took over. I never even questioned it. My LCR has nothing for sights, they're just black. But that's a very close up and personal gun, so it's kind of like, you know, point of aim, you know, and that's how I'm doing business with this. This is very nice. It's a 3.3 inch barrel, right? Am I right on that, Michael?
3.1.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3.1, but yeah, yeah, I like it. So I would say for me, I'll have to end up with one of these. I really do like it. Yeah.
Just think, the live stream turned you back on to Smith & Wesson.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've always liked Smith & Wesson. I've never had anything against them, but I didn't like that Sigma, and I couldn't remember what that was called. But man, after I shot, I thought, man, I'll stick to my, you know, other pistols, you know. So very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and box this up. Anything else? Anyone have any questions on this pistol? Do you see any questions, Michael? I'll let you rattle questions off there.
I'm not seeing any questions. Nick said nice 3-dot sights. I like these sights in low light level conditions.
Yeah, I can see where they would be a pretty reliable sight. Tell Nick I said hi. I can't see his comments, but tell him I said hi. So I want you to ask everybody so far, what do they think of the show? I mean, what do they think? The last thing I want to say, I already told everybody this is a new pistol by Idaho Guns and Outdoors. They were gracious enough to let us use it, and it was funny. He gave it to me last night, and he said, "Why didn't you pick something really cool?" And he pointed to all his guns. So I'm thinking, wow, what are we going to have for the show? And he's willing to give me one for every episode. So stay tuned. But in case anyone's interested, if you want this gun, get a hold of Idaho Guns. Tell them it's the one Highboy signed it. It's in the box, okay? All right, so they'll keep that in the box, and that's how they'll know. Okay? How we doing, Michael?
We're doing. Dakota Man said, interesting approach. Nick said, what show? Only facts.
That's right. That's right. Only facts. Only facts. And now we're ready to get into primers, to primers. So, but before we get into primers, I want to read something. This is from a Handloader Digest from 1962. I'm going to be reading out of this for like the next 4 episodes, at least. I'm going to start out reading something, and then I'm going to give the viewers and Michael a choice. The choice is yours. Okay. I'm going to read something. This was by Phil Sharp. This was The Art of Handloading Ammunition, and I'm going to read this. I love these old books, and I'll get them out from time to time, and I'll read them, and I'll like pick something up that I didn't pick up the time before. For many years, I have been writing about hand loading of ammunition. So have many others. We all seem to have overlooked one important point. As we grow old, the younger generation grows up. Many want to know about hand loading, and the answers they get from the expert are dished out in a way a college professor answers the queries of his postgraduate students. What the newcomers want is basic information. In hand loading, thousands of letters and simple questions keep turning up. Some call it hand loading and some call it reloading, writes one chap. Which is correct? Don't y'all want to know what's the difference between reloading and what's the difference between hand loading? Do you want to know, Michael?
Yeah.
All right. So some call it hand loading and some call it reloading, writes one chap, which is correct. The author says both. When you buy new cartridge cases and load them, you are hand loading. When you reuse those fired cases, you are reloading. Now, if you talk to different groups of reloaders, bench rest shooters, they'll say no. A fired case, you're still hand loading. Hand loading can also mean, hand loading very precision, each round at a time. So over time it's evolved, but in my mind I always understood as hand loading starting out with the new case, reloading is starting out with the used case. So this is the question I want to ask the viewers. Do you want Michael and me to just give you our spill on the primers, or do you want me to read for about 3 to 5 minutes on primers from 1962, and then we can give our spill? So Michael, you tell me what the viewer wants, because this is about the viewers, not us.
Right. Nick L says read.
We got one read.
2 reads, B. Burrell. Dakota Man says read.
There's 3 reads. And you know why? You know why you guys say that? You want the real information. Now I'm going to give it to you. Before I get into this, this is going to really, this will make your day. This fella, he goes into 10 different questions. And over the next however many episodes, we're going to cover topics on cartridge cases, primers, powders, tools, powder charges, economy, cost of equipment, safety, dangerous pressure, how to go about it. So we're going to read about primers, and I'm going to read it to you right now.
What book is that?
This is my hand. Okay, if you get on eBay, right here, get on eBay right there. That's from 1962. I have two of these. I have two of these. They're identical. So I got to find my spot here. It'll be easy. That's okay. Okay, so this author back in 62, he took 10 questions from his writers. This was question 2. The first one was cases. We'll get into that in another episode, but now I'm going to read primers. We hear terms like mercuric and non-mercuric, corrosive and non-corrosive. Why so many writers try to confuse people on this subject is difficult to understand. Let's tear it apart. The primer is the cap in the head of the cartridge. Actually, it's the heart of the cartridge. Without it, nothing else matters. Leave it out, fill the case with powder, and insert a bullet, and you will still have a dummy. A cartridge which will not shoot. There are two general types of primers, differing in their construction, the Burden type and the Boxer type. First, how do they work? This is how the primer works. When you pull the trigger on a gun with a cartridge in the chamber, the hammer or firing pin travels forward. The nose of this firing pin strikes the center of the primer in center fire ammunition and dents the primer or cap. This jams a very high explosive mixture. Did you hear that? Listen. Hang on. This jams a very high explosive mixture. We're going to hit on that against a hard object known as the anvil and creates the explosion. This explosion creates a flash, but since the metal cup of the primer prevents a flash from coming back into the shooter's face, it goes forward through the vent or hole in the bottom of the primer pocket in the case head. This ignites the charge of powder in the case, causing it to burn rapidly, not explode. If it exploded, you would have a wrecked gun on the first shot. As the powder burns, it is converted into gas at a high pressure, about 50,000 pounds per square inch in high-powered rifles. Let me read that again. If it exploded, you would have a wrecked gun on the first shot. As the powder burns, it's converted to gas. The powder is converted to gas. Henceforth, gas-operated system. The gas must go somewhere. The barrel is strong. The breech of the gun is strong. And the breech is sealed by the brass cartridge case. Remember when the cartridge case, when it obturates, it sticks to the inside of the chamber and that sealing. If that case doesn't do that, the gas will escape around. That gas wants to get out and return to atmospheric pressure. But we got gases building up, so we need it sealed because we want the gas to push the bullet, right? The barrel is, okay, something has to give, and the only thing that can give is the bullet. It is pushed through the bore and out into the atmosphere. When we say atmospheric pressure, where I'm standing, this is atmospheric pressure. So when that gas increases in that cartridge case, we have pressure. Once that bullet exits that bore, everything in that cartridge case, everything in the bore returns to atmospheric pressure, okay? The difference between the Burden and the Boxer. American primers are all the Boxer type. That little cap is composed of a metal cup, usually of brass and nickel plated. A primer is not made of hard metal. If you had a primer made of hard metal, you would break, bend, probably wouldn't bend. You would peen your firing pin and it would no longer work. it would peen it to where it's shorter and shorter. It wouldn't make contact. Your brass is 70% copper, 30% zinc. It's brass. That's what your primer is. That cup is brass. It is softer than the firing pin striking it, okay? The little cap is composed of metal, usually a brass and nickel plated. Inside is a small quantity of high explosive covered with a seal of tin foil, or more commonly, sheckled paper, and a unit of stamped brass known as the anvil. Now, that was the old days, the sheckled paper. I have some older primers. I don't know where I put them. I should have grabbed them. They're from around the 60s. Okay, when we're talking explosive, we're talking fulminate of mercury, or mercury fulminate, as it can be called, or people refer to it. There's different types of mercury fulminate. In the old days, the mercury fulminate was corrosive. You shot that gun, you were literally walking over to a ditch, washing your gun out. Hey, that water was nothing compared to what that was going to do to the rifle, but it also killed the brass. It would kill the brass terribly. You could, if you were to take a mercury thermometer and break it and put it on that brass, set it out for a little while, a couple weeks, see what happens to that brass. It's very corrosive. Mercury, the newer mercury fulminates, designed to not be corrosive, but it is an explosive. It is an explosive. I was talking to a guy the other day, very smart on the topic. He said a shoebox full of mercury fulminate, the building we were in, he said it would level this building. That would level my house. Terrorists that want to make bombs, they will take primers and put it in a box, and they'll put a little mixture of something else in there. I won't tell you what that mixture is, but the idea is it takes that mercury fulminate out of the primer and it releases it, and you can remove the brass or the caps and the anvil, and you're left with the mixture and the mercury fulminate. And the mixture evaporates and they're left with mercury fulminate. But if you've ever learned that dynamite that's been sitting for years, the nitroglycerin, it goes downward and the nitroglycerin comes together. If you pick old dynamite up, boom, you're done. You didn't know what hit you. Mercury fulminate's the same way. When that mercury fulminate is left on its own, you pick that shoebox up, primers ignite much faster than powder. You would never know what hit you, okay? I say this because some guys, they will tell me still right today, they store primers in a bottle or a box or a jar. That's enough. I could have this many primers in this bottle and drop it, I would be dead. Dead. You can take a primer that's turned sideways. You go to seat it and it's turned sideways in a primer pocket. And you can go to grab it with pliers. It'll blow the pliers right into the ceiling. Yes, they're explosive, very explosive. The design of the anvil varies with manufacturer, but essentially it is high in the center with relief around the sides to permit the flash of the primer mixture to escape through the vent into the powder chamber of the case. The Burden primer is like the above, except that it contains no anvil. The anvil required is in the form of a tight bumped into the bottom of the primer pocket in the case itself, okay? That doesn't make sense. There's kind of a typo here. Just run with me. Also, these foreign cases using the Burden primer usually have twin flash holes on either side. So basically, he's getting into the construction of the Boxer over the Burden. You can get online. You can look at that. You can check it out. Okay. The Burden primers, they perform just fine. The Burden cases perform just fine. Okay. American loading tools are not designed for Burden primers. We'll just leave that there. Foreign ammunition, prime new cases, and Burden primers are available in the United States with the proper tools for decapping. They don't pose too much of a problem. For all practical purposes, though, it is best to stick with American, Canadian, and foreign cases made to accept the Boxer. The Boxer, okay? Now, one interesting thing. The Burden was made in the United States by Harem. I don't remember the guy's name. The Boxer was made by Edward Boxer of Britain. Those swapped. Okay, back up. You're going to understand this. Burden was made in America. Boxer was made in Britain. The Burden went more NATO, if you ask me. I don't know. And Boxer is more United States. Communistic countries don't allow for reloading. The United States does. That's why that Britain designed one came over here, because we have the tools to reload it. You can decap it, reprime it. Let that sink in. Early primers contained the high explosive fulminate of mercury. American centerfire primers have discontinued it since the explosion results in some free mercury, which is distributed over the inner walls of the brass case. Now, they still use the fulminate of mercury. It's just different. Now, the corrosive primers, they quit manufacturing those in 53. You'll know, you don't want to use those primers if you find them, but you'll know you have them because they're just in a brown box, just a brown box. Don't load those. Keep them as a neat keepsake, whatever, but don't load those because they're corrosive to the brass and your firearm. American centerfire primers have discontinued it since the explosions result from some mercury which is distributed over the inner walls of the brass case. This attacks the brass and makes it brittle and dangerous. Okay, so those older primers, it made the brass brittle and dangerous, okay? If you live near, this guy's saying if you live near a high school, yeah, okay. If you live near a high school or college having a chemical laboratory, perform a simple experiment. Give a student a fired cartridge case and ask him to dip the mouth into pure mercury for just an instant, wipe it, and give it back. Set it aside for a week or so, then drop it on the floor and step on it. It will crack and crumble instead of bend. Brass, the reason we can use brass is it has this ability to expand and contract, but you put that mercury fulminate on it of the old compound, it became brittle, very dangerous. Okay, so that's the most of what I wanted to use. Okay, I'm going to read something. At the turn of the century, we began using non-mercuric primers. The basic substitute being potassium chlorate. I might be incorrect on using fulminate of mercury today. They're basically today is non-mercuric primers. When this primer mixture is fired, it leaves a salt potassium chloride, which is distributed over the inside of the case and on through the bore of the barrel. Potassium chloride is similar to sodium chloride, ordinary table salt. This causes the barrel to rust. Okay, just a little inside there. So there we go. That's the gist of what I wanted to read. I could read all this, but it starts getting, I start rolling back. Okay, this guy was very thorough in his writing. So how are we doing so far, Michael?
We're doing good. We don't have really much. Jason Elliott bought a shot shell primers by the bag at a gun show once. 1,000 of them in that bag.
Okay, he bought some shot shell primers, and they're in a bag.
Yeah.
Those are different. I don't, but they're still explosive. They're still explosive. Shot shell primers, they come in packaging too. He has to be very careful. He does not want to drop those. That's a very bad thing. That's a very bad thing. I think okay, Michael, you entertain everyone for a second. Don't mean to.
The biggest thing I've got is, if anybody knows the size difference between a small rifle primer and a small pistol primer.
Your shot shell primers, they also come in. Yeah, I'm not going to find what I want. They come in packages just like any other primer. Now, okay, what are you asking? The difference of what now?
The size difference.
Are you wanting people to answer that, or are you asking?
Yeah, I'm asking if anybody knows the difference.
You want me to say,
or knows what sizes?
Do you know the answer?
Yeah.
Oh, I won't. Then I'll let. Yeah, I see. You're seeing who knows. We got anyone answering?
No.
Can I answer it?
Go ahead.
Smaller 0.175 inch diameter and larger 0.210. All right. Primers are measured in terms of what's called brisance. We could say some primers are hotter, some are more mild. That is not technically wrong, but it's not technically correct. We would say some primers have more brisance than others. That's correct. Powders. We could say some powders are hotter, some are more mild. Some are faster, some are slower. The correctness for powder is quickness. It's measured in quickness. Some powder is quicker, some powder is less quick. So brisance is, some primers have more brisance, some have less. Your Magnum primers will have more brisance than your standard primers. Why? All right, this is how this works. If I have a fuse, pretend this is a fuse, and I light this, the fuse is going to burn. So if I have a 6-foot fuse and I light it, it's going to burn. Now, if you've ever taken powder, which I've done it, run a line of it, and you light it, it burns like a fuse. But that is the worst thing you can have in a cartridge. So now we have our cartridge case. Let me grab a cartridge case. So we have this cartridge case. What we don't want is, we don't want it to start here and finish there. We don't want that. We want all that powder to burn as uniform as possible, kind of like as close to all at once as we can. So it's an even burn. Our pressure expands to all outer diameters evenly, and it's the same case after case after case. If we had a means of igniting a spark into that flash hole and it touched that powder, you would have a fuse, and you don't want that. So we need a way to get a little something something into this powder, and then it ignites from there. In your mind, as an illustration, imagine if you could throw a bunch of hot rocks deep into that powder and they all ignite at once. Brisance is the shattering effect, of an explosive. So now we have a primer with brisance. We pop it. Our brisance, it spits into the powder. And it goes in, the ambers, the fire, whatever, the heat, whatever it is. I'm not that technical guy. I'm just saying it spits into there and then it ignites. That's your brisance at work. Henceforth, Magnum, we have more powder. These rocks for our illustration, you can't get them all the way through that powder. You know, it's a little different, and it's maybe a compressed load, packed tight. Now we need more brisance. That's where a Magnum primer would come in. So we have a Magnum primer, and what happens? We have more brisance. It literally busts through that powder, and we have complete uniform ignition. That's your brisance, okay? Now, this brings us to this. So you say, I want to put a Magnum primer in place of a standard primer. Okay, think this out. You put the Magnum primer in, pull the trigger, and you over brisance it. You throw the rocks all the way to that side, and now you burn from here to here. You just went backwards. I'm not saying that's the case every time. Some guys use a Magnum primer and they get better results, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It doesn't mean you're going to blow the gun up, nothing like it. It just means it's not matched the way you think, okay? Now, primers have something that's called the ability, I'm pulling this out of thin air, the ability to withstand pressure. Certain pressures. When you hear people say Federal has a softer cup, CCI and has a thicker cup, what do they mean? This, what I'm going to say, applies mostly to small rifle, pretty much. I have never experienced this, but I'll explain it to you. You load a cartridge for your small rifle. You go out and you pull the trigger, and what you find is on the primer, there's a blown out hole. There's a hole blown out. You're like, what the heck? Well, not all primer cups are the same thickness. So what happens is when you start getting up somewhere around 45,000, 50,000, 55,000, and you're pushing that envelope, you use a primer with a thinner cup. When that pressure comes back through that flash hole and hits the primer, the hole that your firing pin comes out of, that primer cup comes up against that and you blow through that. That's primer blowback, okay? So remember this, if you're loading for a small rifle and you get that, then step up to a primer with a heavier cup, or know that beforehand. Now, or your 223 Remington, we could certainly have that. I'm just saying this off the cuff. I don't know. I'm thinking that's why they have the mil-spec rifle primers. That also aids in that. I've never said that because I don't know for sure. I had to call CCI. I'm just, logically, it makes sense. So now rifle primers, they have a thicker cup because of higher pressures. Bottom line, higher pressures for rifles going to have a thicker cup, right? That's why a rifle has more force. Sometimes you'll hear them say a rifle has more pressure coming off the firing pin. I don't know. I think if I punched a guy, I'd say I would call that force against his head, not pressure. So when a firing pin comes into the primer, I see that as the rifle has more force against the primer than a handgun. Okay? So how are we doing, Michael?
We're doing, B. Burrell says, why do some cases, such as a 45 auto, why are they made with both small and large primers?
Gosh, and I knew that. I knew that. Don't ever have a stroke because you lose digits. Okay, I know that. I've only read it a million times. For one, it doesn't need it. Two, it's a manufacturing deal. I want to say it was because in the beginning they had large primers. Okay, it wasn't. It's as things fold out for economy. I think that's how it goes. You have a 45 ACP large primer, but then they say we're going to manufacture these with small primers, saves money. But what happens? Reloaders get a hold of those and cross it. So that wasn't a really good idea. I will research that. I have it in one of my books. I've read it. It's one of those things you forget more than you forget more than you realize in life. So I will research that. I'll put that on my list, and we'll make sure we cover that at the beginning of the next topic because I know it, but it's just not coming to me. Okay. Any other questions?
No, that seems to be it. Other than Slim Flyers asking what kind of holster I've got, but
You'll love it.
When you pull the firearm out, your belt smashes it. It's garbage.
It's tough wear, huh?
Yeah.
Actually, it's not even tough wear. That's what we're saying. So I have this is something else. I'm going to send Michael one of these. This is my Small Arms Lexicon and Concise Encyclopedia. If I was you, I would get this. Robin Sharpless got me onto this. And so I've been snapping them up off eBay. I got like 5 or 6 of these. I wait till they're cheap when I buy them. I'm going to go to, I'm going to read some stuff on primers real quick. And
Chris Robacher says, what kind of experience do you have with CCI primers?
Me?
I'm guessing.
Enough just for my, typically what I shoot. That's a broad-based question. Be more specific on what.
CCI is all I use because that's about all we can find around in my areas.
Mm-hmm. I have them all. I don't get to where I really experiment with that way. But now they got my Ransom Rest, I've thought of doing that, but it takes so much time. But I'll do it eventually. I'll do it. Okay. I'm going to read a definition. Priming mixture. The tiny, highly combustible and explosive charge. There we go. Explosive. I would not be carrying 1,000 shot shell primers around in a bag. That's just me. That is used in percussion caps and primers to ignite the main charge, powder charge in fixed ammunition. Primers are no doubt the most dangerous component in small arms ammunition. The hardened paste mixture is so sensitive that it is easily set off by a light blow. That's how it works. When the forerunner of the modern priming mixture was invented by Reverend Alexander John Forsyth in 1805, the inventor chose to call it detonating powder. Others, because of its unpredictable and often disastrous nature, simply refer to it as the devil mixture. The earliest priming mixtures were comprised principally of fulminate of mercury. Later, improved mixtures added chlorate of potash and powdered glass, and when fulminate of mercury was found to have a highly corrosive effect on brass case, and mixture of potassium chlorate and antimony sulfide was substituted. Formulas for modern priming mixtures vary from one manufacturer to another, but at least some of the following chemicals figure prominently in most of them: sulfur, lead, or copper, TNT, barium peroxide, barium nitrate, and lead peroxide. Primer setback. The term applied to a system used in a relatively small number of automatic weapons where the primer sets back against the bolt, thus pushing the plunger mounted into the bolt face to the rear to unlock the mechanism. Or primer setback, the loosening or partial dislodging of the primer from the primer pocket of the cartridge case, an occurrence that points to a faulty bolt, defective cartridge, excessive powder charge, or defective chamber, also occasionally resulting from the use of unusually high loads. Okay, just too much pressure. Primer seat, the chamber in the breech mechanism of a gun that uses separate loading ammunition into which the primer is set. Primer pocket, the receptacle in the base of a cartridge case or shell for receiving and holding the primer or primer cup. A primer leak, a defect in a cartridge which permits partial escape of hot propelling gases through a primer caused by faulty construction, an excessive charge, or an oversized firing pin. Black marks around the primer indicate the leakage. I'm going to read that again. Primer leak, a defect in a cartridge which permits partial escape of hot propelling gases through a primer caused by faulty construction and excessive charge. Right there. You'll hear people say, reloaders say, you know that you are having excessive pressures when the primer's flattened. That's not true. That's not true. You know you have excessive pressures when you have a flattened primer, the case is hard to extract from the chamber. If you have a case that's hard to extract, you can't get that bolt open on your rifle is telling you you're really pushing it. And then when you see black soot around that primer, you got a problem. Now, some primers are within thousandths smaller than other primers in the way of diameter. So some primers, they might allow for that. So sometimes you could see a little black soot. Well, you know, you could have primer pocket over enlarged. I've never seen that, but I would be thinking that way. How many times have you shot the case? This kind of thing. So just because you have a flattened primer, that to me is an indication that you have excessive pressures, especially if that case is extracting just fine. Okay, that's just me. Primer blowback is the term applied when a section of the primer opposite the firing pin hole is blown out by the gas pressure of the exploding propellant. May be caused by a weak mainspring or a firing pin that is too light. It may be caused by that, but we just also said that that can be caused from a primer with a thinner cup. Okay? That's kind of all I had. How'd we do? How we do for our first live show? Is this format worth continuing on? Because I got a lot. I got a lot of books.
So how much experience do you have with the difference in the small primers versus large primers in a 45?
45 auto, naturally.
Yeah.
Very little. Very little. But I will tell you this, what I do know. There isn't enough to tell the difference. There is, I have tried some. My point of impact is the same. Everything's the same. Recoil's the same. Slide function's the same. I would be really reluctant if anybody told me there was a difference. I would say, put it on paper, put it on a ransom rest, and let's measure that. Because I messed around with that. I was like, chuck the small primers. The large is the same. That's my opinion. That's my experience.
Nick L is saying he's got a better standard deviation with the large. And he said there is a difference with the velocity for him.
I suppose you can see a velocity difference, but I haven't seen enough that it affects my point of impact. I mean, I guess if I haven't put it in my ransom rest, I suppose I should do that. I suppose I should put it in my ransom rest, and gosh, maybe I will do that. And for an episode, I'll bring the target, I'll show the results, and we'll see.
Let's do it where you test like single base powders versus double base powders.
Yeah, we can do that.
Slim, yes, the finger's doing better. The rod is out, but it still hurts. Still can't bend it.
I don't know how long it will take me to do that, but I just got to work the loads up and then get over to the range and just put it on paper. So yeah, I'll work towards that. I think it's a great question. I'm talking from just experience offhand shooting on the target and bang, 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 still, put it on the ransom rest. We'll just have to see what we come out with,
Right. Is there a difference in flash hole sizes between small and large?
No. And you don't want to change that flash hole size because once again, now you're changing the rate at which the Prisonse is doing its job, and that changes the burn rate of everything. And that can spike your pressures dangerously high. You're burning way too fast.
Nick L, you need a chronograph or?
Is he asking me?
I don't know. Nick L says need a chronograph. I don't know if he's asking if somebody needs one or if he needs one.
I have a chronograph. I do. And I could I definitely think you're going to see a different large to small on those, but I don't really know if it's enough to really, just let me put something together. That's really good. That's really good. I think that's a very valid question, actually. I guess it depends on how how much of it you want to put under the magnifying glass. How's that?
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I will tell you something. Numbers do not lie. And a large primer is a larger primer, right?
I know Johnny's reloading bench had a problem. I think it was with 6.5 Creedmoor with the small primers and double base powders.
What was happening?
I believe is what it was. It wouldn't fire. He had numerous misfires, and the powder was turning a orangish brown.
Huh. I bet I could get a guy on here to answer that question. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. That's a very good one right there. So there's three things I got to figure out why different primer sizes in the cases. It's almost coming to me. I can almost spit it right out of my mouth, but it's not quite there. And then we got to test the differences in those, and then the orange is brown. Maybe that will be the basis of our next show. How's that?
There you go.
Let's do that so we can put these videos in order, and they'll be answered in an order. How's that?
There you go.
I will work on that. So I'm not sure when we'll have this next live stream. Let me get it in gear and see if I can't put some 1911 loads together, and I'll go out and get the chronograph set up and see if I can just get some kind of chronograph difference, something on paper, and come back and I'll report that. And if I do, I'll make a little video out in the desert of just running the chronograph so the viewers can see it on real time. How's that?
That sounds perfect.
So my question to the viewers is this an effective type of gun talk show? We started out a little bit of history, and then we have two topics, preferably talk about one gun, and then our topics of choice. What does the viewers think? Do you like this? Is this helpful? Well, Miss Highway, she's probably in the house. She might even be watching this. She's the love of my life. She's I started this before she got home from work. So okay, so I think that we got some guys that like it. She must be shopping. So there we go. And I think we're gonna kind of wind it down. What do you think, Michael? Is there anything you want to add to that, Michael?
No, I think you touched on everything.
I want to tell.
We already discussed.
I want to put, and I'm going to put a disclaimer in the description box that I'm not a professional. We try to get as close as we can, but the information will help reloaders. And if anyone doesn't, if they have a discrepancy, it's not here to argue it. It gives people, we all have access to information. And all this does is get us in the direction of finding the information if we don't feel this is right. But for the most part, I think it's right. I think one thing I might have got wrong is the fulminate of mercury. I wanted to say they still use it, but it's not the same. But it's been like 10 years since I researched it, maybe longer. So I think I'll get a hold of CCI and I'll find out about that. Okay.
Well, if they get a hold of me, I'll ask them.
Yeah, do. Oh, Kate likes it. Well, 1,000 times. Well, I am flattered. Oh, and Nick's reminding me of something. I don't know how to reload. I will tell everybody something. I had a guy ask me this. He said, "How do you know so much?" I really don't know a lot. If there's guys out there that know way more than I do, but you don't get a lot of information by doing a lot in a short time. You get a lot of information by doing a little every day. And you're going to forget a lot, but that's okay. But there's another thing. If there's any advice I can give someone, don't learn everything that's out there to impress the world. Learn what your interest is just to make you more knowledgeable in what you love. There's a lot of guys that they want to tell everybody everything, how to do it, and they don't know much. I know a guy, he's old, and he's a jack of all trades. And he told me one day, he's been a jack of all trades his whole life. He says, "You want to know how much I know?" I said, "How much?" He says, "Very little." He said, "Jacks of all trade, we just know enough to do the job." He said, "But I have certain loves in life, and I can tell you everything about those." And see, you take what you like, and every day you spend time with it, and that's what you love, right? Now, I'm going to tell everybody something. It had been years for me since I had missed a day of not really messing with a gun. And would you believe that through the building of my website and the new YouTube channels and all that, there was days I wasn't doing anything with my guns. I was like, this is out of the normal for me, because I always am doing something with some kind. Always. That's me, right? So that's how you learn. Find out what you love. It might not be reloading ammunition. It could be knitting 101, right? You'd be the best knitter in the world, but do what you love and do it every day. And you're going to forget a lot, but your experience of the hands-on, that's what will help you to retain. That's all I got to say.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let Michael, I want everyone to know something. Michael and me are in total agreement that I'm not the host. He's not the host. We're both the co-host, and the man upstairs is the host. So we just humble ourselves before you, and thank you for just being a part of the show.
Screw that.
Okay, Michael, you're going to end it. You get called names.
Alrighty. So we done then?
I think we're done. Lev W says, "Jack of all trades, master of none."
You're welcome, Nick.
Okay, before you call them off, I'm going to just say hi to them all, okay?
Alrighty.
I just want to say hi to Kay and hi to Slimfire, hi to Nick, and tell Joanne I said hi. Andy, 79Z28. We have Ratchet Man, Lev W, JH586, Kenneth Hayes. That's great. That's awesome. Very humbling. B. Burrell, Desaad, Chris Robacker. Oh, this guy, beginning reloading. Jason Elliott. And we have a new guy, Frank M81, M82. Everyone tell Frank, welcome. Michael Schwarm, Dakota Man, my good friend. Not that, I mean, you're all my friends, right? I think I pretty much got them all. If I missed anyone. Oh, Derek Powers. Derek Powers. Gotcha, buddy. All right. So you have a lot of names to call off, Michael.
All right. Well, everybody say out. Andy, 79Z28, Ratchet Man, Lev W, Nick L, JH586, Signal Soldier, Slimfire, Frank. You're welcome, Slim. Dakota says, welcome, Frank.
Hey, you want to be famous?
What do you mean?
Talking to my beautiful wife. She's right behind the camcorder. You can come say hi to everyone.
Eduardo Sanchez.
Here's this beautiful lady. This beautiful lady.
Exhausted lady.
She's exhausted. She's got a new job, so she works later now. She doesn't get home till 5. So I'm home for 1 hour before she gets home. So I try to like clean the house or wash the dishes or
have a live stream.
Or have a live stream. Okay, I'll be right there. You'll see him.
It's his time.
What did she say?
She said hi.
Well, hello.
I got her own headphones and a webcam, so I'm trying to get her to get in on one of these. So that will happen. She's running.
She's gonna go get on it now.
No, she's running. She doesn't want to. All right. So are we out?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael. Man, thank you. You're awesome. You're a great partner, and we appreciate everybody. So, all right, here we go. Oh, one last thing. This won't be live on YouTube, at least not on my channel. You'll have to go over to YouTube, to my channel, and where are you going to put it, Michael?
I'm gonna go to YouTube.
Okay. All right. Because some of the things we talked about, YouTube would shut it down. Okay. Here we go, guys and gals. We're out in 3.
Wait.
2. Oh,
Slimfire said to tell you he's sending a picture to your phone.
I'll show it. You send it, I'll show it.
Slim, you wanting it shown?
Is he sending me a picture or a question?
I don't know. He said a picture.
I didn't get a picture. No picture came through. This is B. Burrell?
Slimfire.
Oh, Sunfire. Nothing. Okay, so I'm going to say this. I'm not going to tell you who this guy is. I have 4 different guys right now sending me messages. 4 different. 5. We got Nick L in the bunch. He sent his earlier. But this is how awesome the viewers are. I can't believe this. I got some large primer 45 auto brass I'm sending you. But do you want some small pocket primer pocket brass as well? You guys are so nice. Thank you. Sure, we'll take some small primer because I got a test to do. So is he?
Sure
is Slim going to send a pic?
He said okay.
Well, we'll give him a minute here. We're almost done there. Huh? Dinner's cooking. You must have went shopping, huh? Yeah. I'm going to text Slim. Oh, I got it. Does he want me to show this picture? I will totally show this.
He says, I sent it.
I just texted him back. Do you want it shown? That is awesome. My gosh. That's some shooting. That's some really good shooting. And I like that target. He's not responding, so I just think I'm going to show it. Are you ready, Michael?
We're ready.
I'm just going to show it. Now that's some shooting. Is that awesome?
That is some good shooting there.
So just so my viewers know, those of you that have my phone number, you can send me your pics, and at the end I'll show everybody. Send pics of your targets. We'll do that. All right, Michael, that's it. We're going to sign out.
All righty.
Okay, guys and gals, we are out in 3, 2, 1.